Before you watch this video, we would like to say how deeply offended we are by Drumpf's racism and by his creepy cult following's racism. America is all about diversity. Diversity in business, diversity in education, background, ethnicity, diversity in ideas, in engineering, productivity, in every way. That's what Americans are, diversity. That's the best word to describe America, is diversity. That's a cultural mixing, period. That's why our Statue of Liberty welcomes people with a guiding light for freedom and liberty here. So we're horribly offended by Drumpf and his creepy drumpsies. It's very creepy. But the GOP cultivated these crazies, and we have to thank them for their appearance at this time in such harmony with their leading candidate chosen by their following. At this point, Drumpf is disfiguring them so badly that they want to distance themselves from him. A smart idea. It'd be very smart to distance yourselves from this thing. That would be smart. To connect yourselves with this thing, very dangerous, politically, socially, and any way you can imagine. The GOP has been feeding us obstructionist birther garbage since a black president was elected. Twice. Even before that. Putting the fear of all this idiocy. He's a Muslim. He's a Kenyan. Well, let us say that Muslims are Americans too. We don't differentiate here in America. We have freedom of religion. Perhaps you've noticed that within our Bill of Rights. Doesn't matter if you're a Christian, Muslim, anything else. You have the exact same rights. You've no more or less for any religious cult division, regardless of how much you believe your dogma, which is all man-made, is real. That doesn't matter. Everyone has the same privilege here. The GOP is now terrified. And what they're afraid of is they created this. And now they're scared to look in their own mirror. Because they created Donald Drumpf. And they created Donald Trump's cultists. Yep, like these creepy dumb fucks.
We have to start tonight with, what else? Nazi prison tattoos. Because hey, it is 2016, and that's what it's like this year. In your life, I hope for you that you never have reason to develop expertise when it comes to Nazi and white supremacist tattooing. But if you do have to develop that expertise, there's basically three things you learn right off the bat, other than the obvious stuff that needs no explanation. I mean, if somebody has white power tattooed on themselves, or they've got like the Nazi SS or the Nazi swastika, or even a nice picture of Hitler, I mean, that kind of thing is too obvious. You don't need to study. But the next most obvious layer of this stuff is probably these three symbols. The first one is the number 14. That's an American white supremacist thing specifically. It's very common in neo-Nazi prison tattoos, but also just in your average run-of-the-mill American white supremacist on the street. 14 stands for the 14 words that make up the white supremacist mantra, which was written by a guy named David Lane. David Lane was a white supremacist terrorist and murderer. He died in prison about 10 years ago. But his 14-word mantra for the movement was, "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children." So that's the first thing that you learn below all the obvious symbols. Is 14 stands for that mantra. Neo-Nazis and white supremacists in this country will often have that number 14 somewhere on their body. The other number that they will frequently have somewhere on their body is 88. And 88 has a double meaning. There's apparently some 88-word-long section of Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, which supposedly inspired that 14-word mantra from David Lane. So 88, on one hand, is a reference back to that same mantra. 88 is also just bad number code for Heil Hitler. Heil and Hitler both start with H. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. So 88 stands for Heil Hitler. So those are the first two. The third one, the other most common, vaguely coded neo-Nazi white supremacist thing you see around, particularly in tattoos, is this. It's a variant of Celtic cross. It's sometimes called Odin's cross. The Anti-Defamation League does a sort of online viewer's guide to Nazi junk. And according to the ADL, that cross is the symbol that was used by Norwegian Nazis in the 1930s and 1940s. Then after World War II, a variety of white supremacist groups and movements adopted it. Today, it's used by neo-Nazis and racist skinheads and Klan members and virtually every other type of white supremacist. It's also part of the logo of Stormfront, which is the oldest and largest white supremacist website in the world. And I think that is why, because it's part of the logo of Stormfront, I think that's why this one actually pops up in a lot of places in the white supremacist world, not just necessarily in tattoos. You might, for example, remember late last month when the great reporter Dave Weigel at the Washington Post did an interview with a guy who we met at a Donald Trump rally in Oklahoma. And the guy had gone to the Trump rally wearing this T-shirt, White Pride Worldwide. And the words on that T-shirt, White Pride Worldwide, surrounded this symbol, right, overlaid on that Odin's cross. And that's very common in white supremacist neo-Nazi circles. So, you don't have to be an expert at this stuff. But what I just said, that's basically kind of neo-Nazi tattooing and symbology 101. Neo-Nazis for dummies. And so, God bless PBS. But a couple of nights ago, the good folks at PBS NewsHour, who really do amazing work, they are a national treasure, they aired a heartwarming little feature about a family of North Carolinians who are not just voting for Donald Trump in the primary in that state on Tuesday night this week. They had been volunteering for Donald Trump to the point where the mom and the family had taken their 11-year-old son out of school so he, too, as an 11-year-old, could phone bank in North Carolina for Donald Trump instead of going to school. And so PBS did this feature, and here's that mom. And the tattoo on the right hand, see the really big tattoo on the right hand? Remember that from the White Pride Worldwide T-shirt? And then you wait like one more minute into this PBS profile, and then we get her left hand. And what's on her left hand? Oh, what's on? That's the 8-8. Hi, Hitler. So the PBS NewsHour feature on these folks, these Donald Trump supporting family, it's not explicitly captioned or headlined as neo-Nazi family or white supremacist mom phone banks for Donald Trump, but that is actually the feature that they did. That's what they aired. And so now PBS is sort of caught up to what they have done here. People noticed. They've now had to run an editor's note alongside the online version of their story. I don't exactly know how you clean that up, right? I mean, what do? Go back and retract the voiceover or something to make note of the Heil Hitler thing on her hand? I don't know. Maybe a subtitle? You could, a flashing red arrow, a clickable footnote that goes to the How to Decipher Nazi Tattoos website? This seems like relevant context. But these are the kinds of journalistic challenges that we are stumbling upon as a nation because of what the 2016 presidential race is this year and who is winning it on the Republican side. The prospect of Donald Trump winning the Republican presidential nomination has taken a couple of interesting twists today. We're going to be talking about some of these tonight. The most striking one, I think, was that Donald Trump's opponent, Ted Cruz, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, got his second endorsement today from a member of the United States Senate. It's a little bit weird to be a senator running for president without a lot of endorsements from your colleagues, but he's only got two so far. The first one was from his friend Mike Lee of Utah. That came just a couple of weeks ago. The second one came today from a Republican senator who, until today, seemed like probably the least likely Republican senator of all to ever endorse Ted Cruz under any circumstances.
A good Republican would defend Ted Cruz after tonight. That ain't happening. If you killed Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate and the trial was in the Senate, nobody could convict you. I was asked the hardest question in my political life. Do you agree with Donald Trump that Ted Cruz is the biggest liar in politics? Too close to call.
If you're a Republican and your choices is Donald Trump and Ted Cruz in a general election, it's the difference between poisoned or shot. You're still dead. I don't think you can be president of the United States if you're going to tell a rape woman she's going to have the child of the rapist. That's Ted Cruz's position. Ted Cruz, at his core, is an opportunist when it comes to his political career. He has an ideological bent that won't sell with the American people. And when it came time to say what Ted Cruz has done in the Senate, what he's done is run down other Republicans. He hasn't solved any problem.
You don't have any confidence in him, basically, to be commander-in-chief?
I think he's been just as wrong as Obama, if not worse. And can I just add, Senator Cruz has been wrong on almost everything.
Senator Lindsey Graham has never seemed to like Senator Ted Cruz. Quite the contrary. But today, Lindsey Graham endorsed Senator Ted Cruz. Or at least he said he'd do a fundraiser for him on Monday, a $1,000 a plate fundraiser.
I've known you and watched you, particularly with Ted Cruz, over the past several years. I'm actually waiting for pigs to start flying down the street.
It's one of those big. Well, it tells you a lot about where we're at as a party.
It sure does.
It does.
The Republican effort to somehow keep their presidential nomination away from Donald Trump is getting both frantic and strange.